Welcome, everybody, to another Top 13. Friday, the Top 13 is back, and today we are doing, finally, my Top 13 horror films of 2020. Being in March, I had 3 months in the new year to kind of binge watch some of the newer releases and stuff like that, and I think I've come up with a list that is fairly good. I haven't seen every film that came out, in 2020. Actually, a lot of the wide releases I haven't watched. I've been mostly watching more indie stuff this year. So, but yeah, that's just how it goes. And so here is my top 13. And just another full disclosure: not every film on this list is a 2020 release. There are films that were made available to watch through streaming services and that kind of thing in 2020. If they had, some of these have had festival releases in maybe as late as 2018, but they were never made available to watch until this year or last year. So these are not all 2020 films. They are just films that were made available to watch in 2020. So just thought I'd clear that up because you'll see some titles on here that are not from 2020, but they still count. So here we go. Just coming into my number 13 is a film that I've talked about in a recent week in review video. That is Uncle Peckerhead, making it my top 13. Uncle Peckerhead, a film about a punk band who are hitting the road to go on tour, but they don't have a set of wheels to bring them to the towns that they need to play at. So they hire or gain the assistance of this gentleman who owns a van who decides to drive them and kind of act as their roadie on the trip. Unfortunately, every night at midnight for I forget 13 minutes, he turns into a demon and is just bloodthirsty and wants to kill everything. So, very funny horror comedy. Uh, a lot of gore. So the thing I like the most about is the kills and the just the wackiness of it, and the comedy is hit or miss. I think sometimes the dialogue is a little watered down. Yeah, it seems like they're making it kind of kid friendly, but then they do scenes like people getting shit on. It's kind of weird, but I like it enough for it to make this list. That is Uncle Peckerhead, number 13. Coming in at number 12 is the last film that I've watched. Actually, I watched this one earlier today. It's a Swedish horror film called Kokodi Kokode. This is one of the films that got a 2019 release at a festival and was made available to watch in 2020. So Kokodi Kokode, the title is a reference to a Swedish kind of nursery rhyme, I think. I don't know if that nursery rhyme was made uh, specifically for this film, or if it's like a real nursery rhyme. But this film is very, very cool. It's about a couple who go on vacation with their 8-year-old daughter, and they buy her a music box. And on this music box, uh, there's kind of a little scene depicted with some people walking down a trail, and it plays this song "Kokodi Kokode," the instrumental version of it. And the little kid unfortunately dies. So due to an allergic reaction to some shellfish. And fast forward 3 years later, the couple's marriage is in shambles. They basically hate each other, so they try to go on vacation together, see how that goes. They go camping. So they go out into these woods, set up a tent, and then they become prey to three unknown figures who are in the woods. And these unknown figures are basically the characters on that music box. They're depicted on that music box, but they're there in real life, and they're kind of torturing these two people. So you've got I'll go into detail in my week in review next time, but it's basically kind of a Groundhog's Day, Happy Death Day situation where the male character, every time he dies or is about to, he blacks out and then wakes back up into the tent where the events start to happen again. So he tries to modify his behavior, his stuff like that. So yeah, very, very cool, very creepy. I absolutely adore the score and the music in this film as well. So if you haven't checked that one out, it's on Shudder, called Coco D Coco Day. All right, coming in at number 11 is a film that I hesitated to put on this list because it is not your traditional style of horror. It is a horror film, but it's more of like the existential horror, and it's just very, very psychological and weird. It's a you've probably heard of it on Netflix, a film called Thinking of Ending Things by Charlie Kaufman. So this is a film about a girl who goes out to the country with her boyfriend to visit the guy's mom and dad and have supper with them. And basically the whole film feels like some sort of fever dream. It's not psychedelic like those that I usually describe psychedelic films as fever dreams, but this is very different in that a lot of the sequences and stuff kind of contradict each other, and just scenes that don't seem to belong in that part of the film. And but at the end, everything kind of comes together. You're able to piece the story together, and I can tell I understand why that might frustrate some people. It's very, very artsy film, but one that I really, really enjoyed. Again, not your typical horror. It's mostly drama, psychological, and just existential terror. So throughout the film, the girl is thinking about dumping this guy, and he kind of you can tell that he kind of knows it's coming, but you don't know why he knows, and it all makes perfect sense at the end. Yeah, so it's a little low on this list. I don't know what it has. I've read that to fully appreciate the film, you have to watch it more than once, but I don't know if I want to, knowing its conclusion. But I might one day if someone wants to watch it with me. I'll put it on. So that's a film called I'm Thinking of Ending Things. All right, moving into the top 10 of last year. Top 10 is a film that you can watch right now on Shudder, a very bleak, dark, kind of supernatural slow burn called The Dark and the Wicked. So, The Dark and the Wicked is a film about two siblings, a brother and a sister, who return to their childhood farmhouse where their parents still live. The father is fell ill and is kind of in a coma-like state in bed, and the mother herself is starting to kind of slip. She's showing some signs of mental illness, so they're kind of there to visit and see how they're doing. And yeah, so the mom is super upset that they're there. They really want them to leave. The siblings don't know why. They just think maybe she's just being hard-headed, But it's made evident that her mental state is not very good, and eventually she does kill herself in the home. And the siblings kind of do some investigating. They find the mom's diary, and it's made clear to them that there's some sort of supernatural occurrence there, some sort of demonic entity that may have been the cause of the suicide and the father's current state. Yeah, so I'm not going to say any more than that. If you want to watch that film, very dark, very bleak, a little slow, but it is, yeah, you definitely feel very, very moody and dark watching this film. It's one that kind of brings you down, but it's as a horror film, it is very good, very stylish, if you want to use that word. I don't know. It's another kind of artsier film, but not as much as my previous ones there. But yeah, check that one out. It's The Dark and the Wicked on Shudder. All right, number 9, another film that you can watch on Shudder. Of course, Shudder being the source of a lot of the films that I've been watching lately. But this one's a really good Polynesian horror film. That is another country that is doing very well in the horror genre. So every time a new release is available on Shudder, I'm kind of interested in seeing what it is about. This one made my list here. A film called Impetigore. This is a film about a young woman and her friend who are kind of they're working at toll booths, so they're not making a lot of money. They want to make some cash. One of the girls is attacked by a dude who's from her like home village. She doesn't know what that's about, but fast forward, they decide to leave their jobs to open up a new shop, but the new shop's not doing that great, and they're struggling for money. So she discovers that her family had a big house in this little village that she's from, so they decide to travel there in the hopes of getting the property, the deed to the property, and selling it to make some money. But while they are there, they find that the villagers are very cold, very suspicious, and there are no children in the town that are from the town, and there's funerals almost every day, and there are funerals for kids, newborns, and all the gravestones in the town are pretty much all for newborn children that didn't make it. And later it's discovered that there is a curse on the town preventing new babies from being born healthy, and the villagers start to suspect that the kind of the origins of the curse, or the source of the curse, is this girl, the protagonist of the film, and they try really hard to kill her in a kind of a sacrificial kind of way in order to lift the curse. So a lot of very graphic scenes. I remember in particular a scene of a woman's skin being put up on like a drawing, like a clothesline, but that was pretty fucked up. But that's yeah, it's a very good story, very good film. A lengthy one. If it's not long, I can't remember how long it is, but it felt like it was long. But it's a good one. It's fun, and it's got some kind of supernatural qualities to it as well. So check that one out, Impetigore. All right, number 8 is a film that got a Sundance release in 2019 and was made available to watch early in 2020, and which I watched it early in 2020, so it feels like this film is older than it is right now. But it is another really dark, slow burn film, which has kind of been the theme of last year, I feel like. It's a film called The Lodge. So The Lodge is a film about a couple who started dating. The woman in this relationship is the sole survivor of a cult that had performed a mass suicide. This happened when she was a kid, so she's moved on from that. She's grown up, she's dating this guy, and this guy has 2 kids, teenagers, and they decide to go to a cabin in the wintertime to spend the Christmas holidays together in kind of this cabin. And the guy, the dad, has to leave for a workplace emergency, leaving the girl and the 2 kids together. They're not getting along too well. The kids are very cold towards her, and yeah. So fast forward a little bit, they wake up, notice that all their stuff is missing, and their phones are dead, and they don't know what's going on. And for some, one of the kids concludes that they died, and this is kind of the afterlife or purgatory. And little by little, she starts to believe this herself, and it's kind of another story, a descent into madness, of course, also having that repressed, trauma of when she was a child, being in that cult, all kind of comes back to the surface. A very, very dark film, a very dark ending. Definitely not one you can watch over and over again, but a very good film. It's called The Lodge. All right, number 7 is kind of the big surprise of last year. A film called Host. It's kind of a found footage style film along the same veins of like Unfriended, like kind of online. It's a film that's taken place over a Zoom call, And this entire film, interestingly enough, was filmed during the mass quarantine. So it was all actually filmed that way through Zoom calls and stuff like that. And it's a supernatural horror film. All the friends are having a Zoom call, chatting each other up, and they try a seance together. And then everybody in the video call is being plagued by supernatural events following that. Very short film. It's about an hour long, I think, but it just blows by. It's so good. One of my favorite of that style. Probably my favorite of that style, of that unfriended style of film where it just kind of all happens through like a Skype or a Zoom call or something like that. Yeah, if you haven't checked that out, I think this one is also on Shudder. Yeah, it is. I think that's where I watched it. But highly recommended. I think the scares are pretty effective. The supernatural kind of events are really cool, and it's one that I recommend. So check that out. Host. Alrighty, number 6 is a film that is a Netflix original. Uh, it's a very powerful film called His House. This is a film about a couple from South Sudan who escaped a war. I think it was a civil war, and they become refugees in London, and they're kind of assigned special housing uh, in in London or the outskirts of London, and it's kind of like a slum. So that's where all the refugees live in that area. It's a slum, I guess the house is very, although they comment that it's a very large house, it is deteriorating and it's not in very good shape. So they're trying to start anew there. They obviously it's mentioned in the story that they lost their daughter when crossing over to the UK, and so they're trying to restart a new beginning. That is a point of contention. There's a lot of tension between the couple for this. The guy, he's trying to assimilate. He's trying to dress like people who are from there in the UK. He's kind of going to the bars. He's trying his best to kind of fit in, while the wife, she's trying really hard to hold on to their culture, and she's still dressing the same way. She still eats with her hands and sits on the floor to eat, that kind of thing. And he hates that she's not really trying to fit in, because they don't want to go back, because they have been threatened with deportation if they're not good, that kind of thing. And it's discovered that there's something not quite right with the house, other than it's kind of sloppy and run down. There's also some supernatural occurrences, and the wife is convinced that a witch followed them to the UK, and he thinks she's nuts, but obviously with the occurrences, it kind of it becomes hard to ignore that possibility, and it kind of descends into crazier and crazier events. So a film that is again very powerful with that theme of some racism, and threats of the struggles that refugees go through, threats of deportation and going back to that war-torn country, and really missing home, that culture. It's a lot of mixed in themes like that make it really powerful film, mixed in with that supernatural element, of course, and like the ghostly events and stuff. So yeah, very cool. On Netflix, check it out. His House. Already, number 5 I watched last night, actually, so I was very happy that I made it this high up on the list. So I had read some kind of mixed reviews that had me worried there a little bit, but happy to say that I enjoyed it. This is a film by Jim Cummings, who directed and starred in this film called The Wolf of Snow Hollow, kind of a werewolf drama. So I think that's where a lot of the complaints came in, is that they go in thinking it's going to be some sort of werewolf gore fest action kind of horror film, but it's not that at all. Werewolf is very much in the background of the story, and it's much more about the drama with the main character played by Jim Cummings. Along the same vein of, if you've ever watched his other film Thunder Road, he plays a very similar character, obviously a cop, a very awkward cop. So if you've seen Thunder Road, you kind of know what kind of what to expect from Wolf of Snow Hollow. A lot very dialogue heavy, and so he plays this cop who's kind of an alcoholic and is extremely stressed out. There's been some murders in town. He's getting a lot of pressure from the press and the townspeople to find this person. They have no idea who's doing the killing. There's some signs that it's some sort of animal involved, and he refuses to believe that, and is convinced that there's a guy he has to catch, right? And so he's facing a lot of pressures in that regard. His father, the sheriff, is ill, so there's some pressure, some drama there, and he's separated with his wife or divorced, and they have like shared custody of their kid. So he's got some stressors there, and he kind of just loses it. Yeah, kind of like that. But yeah, so very very cool. Again, it's a werewolf horror film, but if you go into this film expecting your traditional werewolf story, you're going to be very very disappointed. But a very very solid film regardless, one that I really enjoy, called The Wolf of Snow Hollow. Hey, you shifted positions, getting a little bit more comfortable. Yeah, it's a little longer than I wanted it to be. So, next film, where are we now? Number 4, yeah? Number 4, Brandon Cronenberg's film, The Possessor. Brandon Cronenberg, of course, the son of famous horror director David Cronenberg. Possessor is a very interesting story about a woman who is an assassin, and her methods of assassination are very very unique, in which she has a target, a chip is implanted in their brain, and she's able to insert her consciousness into that person, hence possessor. She possesses the body and then uses that body to get close to a target and kill them, and then kills herself to kind of go back into her own body. So sounds weird, it is, but it's a roller coaster ride of a film. On her latest target, she possesses a young guy, and during her mission, the chip inside the head gets damaged. So the actual person is able to regain consciousness, and it's kind of a struggle to keep control of the consciousness, because the assassin, she can't leave when the person is in control. She's kind of stuck in the brain. Very very interesting sci-fi horror film right there, and I like the kills. The kills are brutal, and the gore and stuff is really cool. So a film that I really really enjoyed. Please check that one out. It's called Possessor. Alrighty, number 3, top 3 time. Number 3 of 2020 is a film that had a festival release in 2019. Again, being released widely early in 2020. It might have been like January. Starring Nicolas Cage, Color Out of Space. Yes, this is a film that was released widely in 2020. You might forget that fact. I did. Anyway, yeah, a very Lovecraftian themed film about a family who live out in the country, and they have a meteorite fall right into their yard, and this meteorite contaminates the well. And how do you talk about this film, man? Some new strange insects come out of the well. You've got some weird plants growing, and oh boy, you gotta watch this film, man. It's so out there. There's a scene in particular where two characters fuse together. It's really really strange and disturbing. But you get a lot of Lovecraftian kind of events going on. Time is different for each character. Sometimes an event happens and it's instantaneous for someone, while it takes hours for somebody else. It's weird stuff like that. So if you're a fan of Lovecraftian horror, you know how weird this is going to be. But one that I really really enjoyed. I know this is a lot of people's favorites. So check it out. Nick Cage in all of his Nick Cage glory, his craziness. I don't. Maybe I don't know if he's as bad as in Mandy in this one, but he's close, if not the same amount of crazy. So check that out just for that alone, probably. Color Out of Space. All right, number two is going to be kind of my oddball pick. It's a film that I adore immensely, and I don't think a lot of other people do. It is another Shudder exclusive, a one of their several good anthologies that came out in 2020. This is the Mortuary Collection. Now, I don't know why people. I think this one has more negative reviews than positive ones, but it just scratches an itch for me. I don't know what it is. The aesthetic, the mortuary itself, the characters, they're really creepy, and I think the stories are very good as well. I don't think there's a drop in quality in any of the stories. That's one of my biggest complaints with anthologies is that there's varying quality in the storytelling from segment to segment. I think this one all across the board is really really good, and um, you got stories involving a tentacled creature in a mirror. You've got kind of a serial killer kind of babysitter plot there, and just some. Uh, all the stories are great. So this is one that, for me, I really enjoyed it, and I love the wraparound story. In this one, with the it starts off with the girl going to a mortuary where a funeral is just concluding, and she's kind of responding to a help wanted sign outside the mortuary. So she's doing an interview with the mortician, a really creepy mortician, and so he's kind of telling her the stories. I think she asks him like, "What are some of the craziest deaths or stories that of people who have come through this?" The bodies have come through this mortuary, and he kind of tells her those stories, right? So yeah, it's I freaking love it. Check it out on Shudder. It's the Mortuary Collection. And number one is no surprise to anybody. Is probably one of the more acclaimed films that came out in 2020. Early in 2020 again. This is The Invisible Man, the remake from Blumhouse. A film about a woman who escapes an abusive relationship and hides out with friends or family members. I can't remember which. I'd have to rewatch this one. It's been a while. And I guess the boyfriend or the ex there kills himself? Question mark. But then she feels that he's still around in some sort of invisible form. Hence, Invisible Man, trying to make her life a living hell. You know. So yeah, it's not much more to say about that film story wise. Uh, but the tension, the drama is very very fantastic in this film. A lot of shocking scenes. The restaurant scene, if anyone can remember that one. But yeah, it's my favorite horror film of last year, and one that I did not expect to even like. I watched the trailer for it, and I thought that was going to be just another bust by Blumhouse, which have been kind of their, in my opinion, they kind of focus on the quantity of films instead of quality, and they're just hoping that some things stick and some things, and other things get forgotten. But this is one that stuck. I guess it's working for them, but. I'm still not a fan of that method, but if that means we see some quality films like this one, then by all means, go for it. Anyway, The Invisible Man, my favorite film of 2020. So, do you guys agree with my picks? Are there films that on here that you feel should be on here? What's your favorite horror films of 2020? I've watched a fair amount of them this year. A lot of films I see making these top lists. Underwater, Freaky. Those are all ones that kind of just squeezed out there. I mentioned that I watched Coco Day, and it that one knocked off the previous 13, which was Underwater. Underwater was on my list until today. it got knocked off. But yeah, check out these films. I really enjoyed them all, so all of them highly recommended. Have a fantastic weekend, and I will hit you guys up with another weekend review early in the week, so stay tuned for that. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.